Cool. So I'm gonna go through like a bunch of slides really quickly, and then hopefully jump into a demo to show you all what we've been working on for the past few months. So what is Edgeware? Edgeware is a developer-friendly blockchain built on Substrate, and the main focus is we're distributing most of the tokens to the community using an innovative funding mechanism called a lock drop. We plan to make the block reward on this blockchain community governed, and eventually, hopefully, we'll plug into Polkadot and scale and benefit from the added security of the Polkadot network. So obviously, we're built on Substrate, so we benefit from having a WebAssembly runtime. And although you might not be able to see all the parts, what we are planning on offering, as what we're building, is governance tech, voting modules, and also governance UIs that hopefully will be useful for the greater community in the Substrate ecosystem, and hopefully a nice social experience that'll facilitate better discussion around governance and new ideas. So the stack is pretty simple. We have the modules that Substrate provides, as well as some voting and identity modules that we have included into Edgeware. The way that we're funding, or at least giving out Edge tokens, is using this method called a lock drop, which will be launching on June 1st. So Ethereum users will lock up Ether in a smart contract, and as a result, or after the lock period is over, they'll get some amount of Edge tokens that'll be included within the Genesis spec. So who should participate in this process? We would love, obviously, developers to participate in this process, stakers and validators to get involved, and also, anyone who's interested in governance, who has ETH. It's a pretty risk-free way to earn Edge, and we would love to hear any feedback and see how we can get new people involved. Yeah, so as I said initially, one interesting goal that we would like to push forward on launch is for the block reward to be community governed. So how we see this happening is people pushing a proposal through the governance system on Substrate and essentially providing an upgrade that will make the block reward chosen based on the general public. This is just a nice diagram that shows both some of the things that Substrate provides, but also a module that we've been developing, which is a signaling module, and it allows people to poll and create new proposals that are primarily focused around sharing ideas and initiating discussion around new governance concepts. So how we see the block reward, at least being community governed, is 50% of it would go to a treasury, and then this treasury would be able to allocate funds to new projects, such as new runtime upgrades or different allocation to validators and whatnot. And the idea is that it would work like a decentralized autonomous organization. And this is an old UI, but I think I'll jump into our demo. But if you have questions, find me or my co-founder Raymond after the talk. Here's where you can see our website, and if you have questions, obviously email us. Nice. So in case you're interested in being a validator, let's make sure you can see this. This is our network, most up-to-date network right now, running on the telemetry. So get involved. We have 13 validators running right now. And on top of this chain is, this isn't live out yet, although you can see the URL, but this is going to be our UI. And the idea is to provide a better social experience to common governance ideas and governance products in the space. So how we see this is, facilitating discussions around new ideas and the ability to create proposals that might not pass, a standard process of just signaling, but at least, everyone should have a voice, and everyone's voice should be, tied to the amount of stake or identity that has, weight in a community. So this is the home page. As you can see, there are a few current discussions going on. So improvements to our UI, ideas around becoming a parachain, ideas around creating better wallet support for Commonwealth and Edgeware, as well as the requirements for becoming a validator. So simple question might be, do we need edged tokens to run a validator? And Tom says, yeah. Additionally, on these discussions, you can vote. And similarly, if you click on a user, you might be able to see how much balance they have, how much tokens they have staked, proposals they've created, discussions they've participated in. And it should just be a clear, social experience for how to see the types of people that are engaging in dialogue and the ideas that people are proposing, as well as who's supporting them. So it's similar to the current Substrate UI, with some of the things that we've included, as well as new interfaces around these governance primitives. So I'll show you something else. You might be able to create a new proposal. So a new democracy proposal might want to execute an extrinsic, as is typical in Substrate. You might want to, submit a new candidacy to become a council member. You would be able to see, who's voting on these candidacies. And additionally, you'd be able to see, the voting power distribution on the network. So who has the most power and what they're voting on. And I guess the last thing I'd love to show you guys is sort of how the identity track would work. If I can find it. No. So let's see. This is my account. So yeah, so we're planning on supporting a variety of different identity attestations. Currently, we're hashing out the tweaks around GitHub attestations, but we're planning on supporting Twitter verifications pretty soon, and then would love to hear, what other sorts of third-party identity services the community would find useful. And the way you would do this is through a standard process of attesting to some metadata on-chain, and then we, as Commonwealth, manage an identity service that will be running automatically and verify these identities or not. But with this, I guess, first-class identity system, people will be able to, create more local communities that can push issues through the governance system, and hopefully some more interesting stuff in the future. But yeah, with that, I'd love to open it up to questions if anyone has any.
Hi. The UI looks pretty good. So I have a question. We were working for pickups on Party, and I think one of the ideas we had at some point for kind of not necessarily QAC, but for the identity on chain, to have some sort of triangulation of if I have a GitHub and a Twitter account and something else, maybe Facebook, whatever, then my probability of me being a real person increases. So have you thought about if you collect attestations for the user for specific address from multiple sources to I don't know, have some weighting or weighing in on like, I don't know,
Sure.
being like a proper person in like legal sense? I don't know, legal.
Yeah, I guess we don't make a distinction in that, but all of your attestations are publicly viewable. So as a user voting on a proposal or proposing something, people would see, you've verified your GitHub, this is what it is, your Twitter, etc. And some interesting things that we're working on right now have to do with creating proposals where specific communities can only vote on. So you can imagine a system where people who have 5 attestations are only allowed to vote on these sets of proposals, or people with these specific 3 attestations are the valid participants. But yeah, I think it's a great idea and something we'd love to keep pushing and iterating on.
Any other questions?
So with any lock drop, some cautiousness, curiosities, could you, 2-part I guess, tell us a little bit about the audit, and 2, the thinking that went into why to hold Edge for a year for signalers in addition to the 40% drop rather than just the drop?
Sure. So I guess a preliminary disclaimer, the schedule is changing slightly and we'll be finalizing it and pushing it out as soon as possible. So I'll try to give a brief description about that. So for anyone that doesn't know, we finished an audit from QuantStamp and passed all of their guidelines and requests. The contract is fairly simple, in my opinion, but don't trust me. Go verify the code. But yeah, so why the signaling? The new change to the signaling allocation is a small fraction of it will be given out immediately to signalers. Most of it will be kept for a month, for 12 months. The intent in doing that is obviously to provide everyone with some initial edge, but again, the signalers will not have the option initially of becoming validators. That's something we're reserving for lockers, because we see that as a reason to lock ETH. In order to become a validator on Edgeware. But yeah, beyond that, the lock drop schedule is changing slightly in that we're rewarding the earliest participants the most, and it'll decrease, not too much. And I guess we're not decreasing the allocation, we're only increasing the bonuses provided by early adopters. So, that answer your question?
I believe so.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, and join the discussions. Yeah.
Thank you very much.